Let's just discuss the last 48 hours now with a couple of guests in Washington. Amisha Cross, Democratic strategist, and Mica Mosbacher, a member of the National Advisory Board of Donald Trump's 2020 campaign. Thank you for joining us on Global. Amisha, if I could just start with you. Nancy Pelosi there taking apart the State of the Union address, but it's been a pretty disastrous 48 hours for the Democrats, hasn't it?
It's been an interesting past 48 hours. We saw a lot of what we assumed that we'd see when it came to the Senate actually finding a way to give Trump an out and legitimately discovering a way to create another way to thwart our democracy. Those are things that Democrats expected to happen. I think that what Democrats are focused on right now is obviously making the way and paving the way for the 2020 election. Going through this process, you know, we had Democratic senators who were there through the entire impeachment process who took time off from actually campaigning in Iowa because of the importance of this process.
I'm surprised you want to bring up Iowa.
We saw what we assumed would happen.
I'm surprised you want to bring up Iowa.
Iowa is not the fault of the Democratic Party. The Iowa Democratic Party had some mistakes, obviously, and I think that those are things that the Democrats are rather upset about. I don't think anybody's excited about that. It gave President Trump another means of sticking a knife in the back of a lot of the American people and making fun of this process. But it doesn't eradicate the fact that this is a president who used the power of that administration, the power of his seat, to try to nudge a foreign leader into helping him into the next election. And I think that that is the basis of this entire argument, and America can't lose sight of that. Just because you have a Senate that is led by Republicans who care more about the president and care more about Trump as an individual than they care about putting democracy and the face of this nation as a priority, I don't think that that eradicates the fact that this president has abused his power.
Okay, Mica, what about this sort of competition of petulance between Donald Trump and Nancy Pelosi? No handshake, ripping up the speech and everything else. He's got to be careful, hasn't he, not to be too triumphalist today. He's going to speak in half an hour.
First of all, that was one of the best State of the Union addresses I've ever seen. I've been involved in politics for 30 years. And he did signal that he was willing to reach across the aisle and work with Democrats on issues that are important to the American people, such as, for example, infrastructure and lowering prescription drug prices. It's interesting during the press conference.
Nancy Pelosi has just outlined how that is provided by the Democrats.
Well, first of all, you cannot argue with the fact that we have record unemployment among African Americans and women, and we're at a 50-year low in this country.
But the drug prices,
our economy is roaring. May I just make one point? Yeah. May I make just one point, please? James Carville, who is a Democratic and renowned political strategist, said yesterday that he is concerned, he's scared for his party. The Democrats are in a disarray, and you know who the victim was during this is Joe Biden, because he's trailing number 4 in Iowa, the first contest in the Democratic primary. Nancy Pelosi is in damage control mode. Meanwhile, the president has come out stronger than ever as a result of this impeachment process. The Republican National Committee has raised a record $154 million. We have momentum going into the presidential election cycle. And President Trump has had one win after the other. And at the end of the day, what have the Democrats accomplished?
OK, Amisha, just looking at the recent polls, I mean, it does appear to have had a bounce on this. Wasn't this a political gamble too far by the Democrats? Nancy Pelosi didn't want to start this impeachment trial originally. And actually, in terms of what public opinion is, Congress has been tied up with all of this, you know, for an end result that both parties knew would be the case.
So there are a lot of falsities stated by my friend on the right there. But to answer your question, I think that it has to be taken into context. The Democratic Congress has passed over 400 bills lowering the price of prescription drugs, fighting for women when it comes to violence against women, fighting to reduce the numbers of gun violence as it relates to school safety, fighting for the things that Americans care about the most. And all of those bills have died once they reached the Republican-led Senate. So acting as though, or framing something as though the Democratic Party has not been moving forward on these bills is a fallacy. Moreover, when we talk about the bills that have been presented before, if the president actually wanted to move forward on reducing prescription drug costs, he could have done it. These things have been on his table for a very long time.
We're running out of time. Mica, does Mitt Romney speak for the soul of the Republican Party?
Absolutely not. And full disclosure, I was his national finance co-chair in 2011. And I'm extremely disappointed in Mitt Romney. I feel he should suit up and play on the team. He's on the GOP team. There were many independent thinkers in the Senate who listened carefully to testimony and came to the conclusion that President Trump deserved to be exonerated. He's been fully exonerated. An acquittal is an acquittal. I know it's a Democratic talking point to keep saying that you're guilty, but he's been acquitted.
Should he be expelled as Donald Trump Jr. wants?
I think that it's political suicide that he has committed, and I think he's aware of it because he's out of step with his constituents.
Okay, all right. Mica Mosbacher and Amisha Cross, I'm afraid we are out of time. Good to speak to you.